All right guys, so today we got a special treat for you. A little different point of view here. Don't have a cameraman or woman today because Queen can't hold the camera. So what we're gonna be talking about is a very rare vehicle, maybe more rare than my Land Cruiser. So this right here is a 2000 4Runner SR5 4-wheel drive 5-speed with a rear e-locker. All right, so we're going to cover a couple things. We'll keep it pretty short today, and we'll do a follow-on video. Sorry about no videos recently. I've been very busy with work and actually transitioning out of the Navy. So what this is just going to be a quick run through kind of this truck and what I've done to it and what makes it so special and rare. All right, so let's go from tip to butt, just like the Land Cruiser, and then we can take a look at the inside of the engine bay. All right, so up front here, we just got the standard fat lip front bumper, but you might say, hey, this truck looks a little higher off the ground than normal. Well, that's because it is. So we went with a 2.5-inch Dobinson, which, as you know, I run Dobinson on all my vehicles. It's the Dobinson IMS 2.5-inch lift, non-weight bearing on the front and rear. So I don't plan on putting bumpers on this vehicle. So I went ahead and just went with the standard 2.5-inch height. And it actually worked out pretty well. In the description, I'll put the exact coil springs I used, because I did have a spacer in the rear and I ended up taking that out. It was like a, I don't know, 30 or 50 millimeter spacer from Old Man Emu. I took that out. So as you can see, I just went with the black coil springs. It's got the IMS shocks that make up the strut there. You might be wondering, okay, what about the red upper control arms? Well, glad you asked. Those are actually JBAs. I used to have a 3rd gen 4Runner and I ran SPCs. Made the switch to JBAs just due to reviews. I don't think SPCs have any big issues. They can fail, they can make noise, but the JBAs are what I've heard the best. And one big difference, it's okay, get down. One big difference between the JBAs and SPCs, these have greasable bushings. So as you can see, you've got the greasable bushings right there and the greasable ball joint. So a pretty big deal. You actually lose some adjustability with the JBAs. The SPCs actually have more adjustability for the camber of the tires. So not a big deal when you're running the size tires I am, which actually is a pretty unique size. So we'll move from the suspension to the tires. As far as the other front diff front end goes, it's really just the upper control arms and the struts. These tires though are pretty special, and these wheels, I got these wheels from a junkyard. These are the 5-stars. I just think that they look the best. I'm a big fan of the 5-star wheels. It had a different wheel on it, the SR5, more modern SR5 wheel. Not a fan, very ugly wheel. I think this mates up well to these Yokohamas. These Yokohamas are a little loud, but man, they look good, and they're also made in Japan, so you can't beat that. You might be asking, what are these tire sizes? It seems weird. Well, they are. They're skinnies. They're pizza cutters. So they're actually 255, 85, 16s. It's a true 33 for this truck, and it allows you to run a true 33, and this tire does not rub anywhere. I have no trimming done. I even have the super rare front mud flaps, which we'll cover in a minute on how I got those. But this truck, yeah, these tires don't rub. And I can also include a picture of the alignment that I got done, and you can see the actual numbers for that. But this combo is perfect. The truck is perfectly level. It rides really good, and I couldn't be happier with the way that the stance looks and the way that the tires look. Moving on, so we went ahead and replaced the lower ball joints. We went with just Toyota OEM. Those are brand new lower ball joints. I also rebuilt, or really took apart and cleaned these axles and then rebooted them. So just went with a, hey, get out of that. Hey, give me 1 second. I gotta corral a dog here. Don't eat trash. Don't eat trash. So we went with a kit. It's actually from a shop out of Montrose, Colorado, called Off-Road Solutions, and The kit actually gives you OEM grease, the new CV clamps or straps, I guess, and then the 2 new inner and outer CV boots. So we put those on both sides. All right. So let's just do a more walk around here. So we covered that. So front end, we're looking at Dobinson struts, JBA upper control arms, new lower ball joints, Toyota OEM, and new aftermarket CV axle boots. I've blown those on 2 different 3rd gen, so went ahead and just took the axles out and did it myself. Not that big of a deal. Okay, let's move on to, well, actually, before we move on, I did LED headlights in this thing. I know, yeah, LEDs and halogen housing, but I've actually never been flashed, and much prefer these. They're not spotty. They look really good. Went ahead and did the LED corner lights and the lower LEDs in the corner markers down here. So, yeah, I'm very happy. I did the daytime running light mod on this. So if you know, I'm not gonna cover that, but you just remove this little box. And yeah, I like the light setup. It's very clean. It all matches. It looks sharp. All right, so you might be asking, wow, never seen these flares. First of all, in this good a condition, and second of all, on a 2000. Well, I actually went to a junkyard. I sourced all these flares. I sanded them down, about a 2-day process. Sand them down, we'll clean them first, sand them down, and then use a 2-step process to paint them. I used Sim Paint. Did a lot of research on that, and I am extremely happy with the way it turned out. Sim Paint and that process, if you have any questions about that, you can ask me. But I mean, these look factory. They're Amp Industries. They're extremely expensive off eBay if you were to try to look for a set. I recommend going the junkyard route. I was extremely happy to find a full set with the front mud flaps. There's a little bit of wear and tear on them, but these are, as you know, are super hard to find. Another solution to that, if you're not anal like me about OEM parts, you can do the aftermarket 3D printed ones. They're just going to be a little different color, but you could paint them to match your front mud flaps. Okay, moving on. So if you've ever seen these before, these came on, I believe they came on 96s through 98s. Correct me if I'm wrong, YouTube keyboard warriors, but I think that's the year these came on. And the front mud flaps, really, I've only seen on 96 and 97s. This right here, this rubber piece, does not come on 4Runners. If you've seen these before, this is mated up right to the fenders with no rubber gasket. I bought this gasket. It comes on the Land Cruisers. It also comes on Tacomas, and I thought that it would look good and match up well, and it is perfect. So highly recommend picking some of this up. This is from Toyota. It's OEM. It's like fender gasket rubber or something like that. It was not cheap, but since I saved so much money on these from the junkyard, I didn't feel too guilty about dropping a little money on that. But as you can see, man, it matches up perfectly. I got it on all the pieces back here. I replaced all the hardware from Ace Hardware. I just took the rusted hardware that was on the truck originally that I got from the junkyard, took it to Ace, and matched it up to what I thought the truck needed and what would work. The front is sheet metal screws. The rear is, I couldn't tell you, but if you just go to Ace, take the screws you already have, you'll be able to get exactly what you need. Okay, moving to the rear. So in the rear, we've got the same thing. We've got IMS shocks with the coil springs from Dobinson in the rear. It rides really smooth. I've had multiple people ride in this truck and just compliment it like crazy on how it rides. But no expense spared, obviously, on the Dobinsons, but you know, I didn't want to go cheap on this truck. I'm really glad I didn't. So Dobinson all the way around in the rear. As far as the rear goes, that's about it on what I did. Obviously, as you can see, we continue with the fender flares back here. This had the SR5 chrome trim on it beforehand. Extremely ugly. Also, if you look now, the tires match up perfectly with the fender flares. So I've had this truck in the mud. It doesn't throw mud all over the side. And these are pretty easy to clean. So I'm really happy with the way these turned out. I highly recommend doing this to your truck. It's a very easy mod, especially if you have the chrome trim. As long as you can go to a junkyard and find this, and I can help you out with that. I've actually got an extra set, but it's easy. All right, so moving on, some more things about this truck. Just got the standard roof rails here. Nothing crazy about that. These have actually been painted. They look pretty good. They're actually painted to match the color of the truck. Usually they're not painted. Usually they're they're the same color as these. And you can paint them, but these are paint matched, so that's nice. As you can see, it's got the moonroof, which is awesome, sunroof, which tilts and everything, which I don't see that on a lot of these trucks, especially the SR5 like this one, so pretty cool to have that. All right, let's move on to the inside. It's not clean, it's not pretty, but that's all right. All right, so they call this the moon mist material. This truck, I just went with some standard WeatherTechs. I've got the factory floor mats underneath, but I love this moon mist color. It's not the most common. You see the tan on most of these. Hang on 1 second, dog's getting away. Hey, get over here, drop that. Get in here. Gotta get her in the truck. Hey, load up. Hey, no, over here. Load up. Sorry about that. All right, so a lot of mosquitoes out here. We're gonna rough this thing up. So we call this the moon mist interior. I really like it. It looks good. It's hard to find parts for. Once again, you got to go junkyard diving. Just got the dash pad up here, dash mat to protect the dash pad from any cracks or anything like that. It's super clean. But man, this interior is super clean. I wish I could actually show you how clean it is, or maybe the camera doesn't do it justice, but it's a very clean interior. And as you can see, we got the 5-speed right here. So the 5-speed, this is my second 3rd gen 5-speed. I just absolutely love them. They drive great, plenty of power. Yeah, shift really well. Couldn't be happier with it. And the most rare thing about this truck is this button right here, so the rear diff lock. It really just makes this truck a unicorn. We'll go over the last item on why this truck is truly a unicorn at the end of the video, but the 5-speed mated up with the rear diff is unbelievable. Just got a little thing back here for the dog, keeps the seats clean. Take a look at it. Little Carhartt seat cover, take the dog to the beach, but these seats are immaculate. They're absolutely immaculate. We got the WeatherTechs down here once again, as you can see. Sunroof, got a floor mat back here. Gotta love these 3rd gens. So they have the roll down back window. If you got surfboards, things like that, you can stick it through there. I drive my surfboard, drive to the beach with this thing and my surfboard in the back, which is pretty cool. Hey, get back. But anyways, that's really the truck. 2 cool things about this truck are, one big deal is the mileage. So this truck actually has, I bought it with 75,000 miles on it. Now it has 80,000. So it's a 2000, which is the last year of the manual 4Runners. It's locked with a rear locker. All right. It's got the SR5 trim from the previous years, which you'll never see a 2000 with that unless somebody put it on there, because it didn't come on that truck. It's got the 5-star wheels, which you will not see on the 2000 truck either, because they're on the previous years for this model. Maybe honestly they might even just put 5 stars on limiteds and the Highlanders. I'm really not sure. Once again, correct me on that if I'm wrong. So this truck right now, as it sits in 2024, has 80,000 miles on it. This truck is just getting broken in. The engine is super tight. I'm not going to show you the engine bay. It's standard 3.4 liter, not supercharged. Wow, that really would be the icing on the cake, but sometimes that can cause issues with the engine. So maybe in the future, but not right now at 80,000 miles. The engine's way too tight. But this truck's extremely clean. There's really no rust on this truck. It's got some surface stuff going on, but for the most part, I mean, as you can see, I mean, I've never put anything on the bottom of this truck. All it has been cleaned. The exhaust, yeah, sure, the exhaust isn't perfect, but I mean, the frame is just how it was back in 2002, 2003, 2004. I mean, this truck is super clean. And the last thing that makes this truck so rare is this truck is a NATO sales truck. This truck was bought by a guy in the Army. It's a one-owner vehicle. It was bought by a guy in the Army over in Germany. And and it's actually a NATO military sales. So you can actually see that this truck was serviced in one of these books. Maybe it's a service book. This truck was serviced over in Germany. It has his unit, his APO. You know, if you're in the military, dogs all over my business. That's a military base. So I don't think this truck was driven very much the first part of its life. I think it was just kept on a military base and driven around Europe. But it being a NATO sales, it was a US truck that was sold over in Europe. So I think maybe that's why some of where the rarity comes from for it. But man, I picked this truck up just to be a daily driver, so I didn't have to drive my Land Cruiser in some of the previous videos. But this is starting to turn into a garage queen. So I really don't know what the future for this truck is. I'll never get rid of my Land Cruiser. Maybe I'll never get rid of this truck because of how rare it is. But man, it's turned out so nice. I mean, it's really awesome. Some stuff for the future we might do to it is we're going to try to find a sport hood for it, which would be awesome. I love the sport hoods. They're just really hard to find, especially in black. So that's next on the list, is a sport hood, and then maybe a supercharger down the road. But besides that, suspension's dialed in. It's exactly how I want it. Wheels and tire combo is exactly how I want it. Not doing bumpers on it. I think it looks clean. I like the fat lip. I like the stock rear bumper. But besides that, that's really it. So this truck's awesome. Can't beat a 5-speed 4Runner. You can't beat a 3rd gen 4Runner. And these are getting very popular right now. Everybody's getting priced out of some of the Land Cruiser, kind of these other trucks you see that are older, from Broncos, things like that. These 3rd gens are still somewhat affordable. It's harder to find the 5-speeds, even harder to find the ones with the lockers, but if you do find one for a decent price, I recommend buying it. They're only going to go up in value or hold their value. If you have any questions about the build, if you have any questions about the specifics on the fender flares or how I dialed in the suspension, please leave them in the comments. I try to get to all my comments, and please subscribe. It really helps me. I'm starting to get motivated again to keep my videos going. So if you give this a watch, just give me any feedback you might have. So thanks guys, I really appreciate it. And yeah, this is my 4Runner.